Hey guys, welcome back to the channel and welcome back to the MR2 project where I have been installing my newly built Gen 4 3S GTE with forged rods and pistons, standalone ECU, good injectors, upgraded turbo, etc, etc. And in the last video we installed the new engine. We did first start and it started up really quick and easy, but it ran really rough. So there's something wrong with the engine or something around the engine. So in this video we're going to dive in and see what we can figure out as far as what might be wrong with it. It could be timing, it could be spark, it could be fuel, it could be something else we don't know about. So let me flip the camera around and we'll talk about where I'm at right now and what I've kind of figured out so far off camera. Okay, so I went ahead and started tearing into it, and I pulled the spark plugs and coil packs out because I wanted to take a look at the plugs and see if anything looked just out of place. And here you can see the plugs in line from left to right is 4, 3, 2, and 1. So we can obviously see that one of them looks different than the others. So number 2 here is all black and probably more or less what you might expect a spark plug to look like. And 1, 3, and 4 are extremely white, which I'm not a plug reading expert, but generally I would expect really clean and white to mean really lean. So I'm thinking we've got a fuel injector problem, because they should all be very similar. What I thought I might find was one of them different than all the others, but I thought I might find one of them white and the rest black. Instead I found 3 white and 1 more or less black. So not really what I expected to find, but it's possible. I'm thinking now that maybe we have some stuck injectors, maybe even more than one. So maybe these 3 are not opening all the way. I'm just thinking out loud here, but yeah, I think my best bet right now is an injector problem. So I've got a buddy that works down the road. He's a good friend of mine that has tuned some cars for me and stuff, and he has a fuel injection cleaning machine. So what we're going to do now is we're going to pull the intake manifold and the fuel rail. Right now I've got the job of pulling the intake manifold first. It's got to come off, and then the fuel rail and injectors can come out after that. And this is probably good anyway, because the fuel injector seals were they were shrunk and weren't sealing very well when I put this motor together the other day. I was a little leery about a couple of them being too loose, so I went ahead and bought 4 new injector seals. So this is going to give me a chance to replace all 4 of the injector seals anyway, so this is going to buy me some peace of mind anyway. So okay, so the trick is to get up here and get all the intake manifold bolts out. You can see I've already got one out right there, and I think I got the one above him out. There's another one there, and then there's like 6 more across there. So I've never done this in the car, but I don't think it's going to be that hard. Maybe a little hard to reach a couple of those, but just got to take those bolts out, and then I'm thinking I can snake all this wiring harness that I've already disconnected just right up through the 2 runners, and this can just dangle here. So that's what I'm going to get done now, and then after that the fuel rail will be really easy to access. So I got the intake manifold loose. Unfortunately you can't pull the intake manifold out of this car with the fuel rail in it. There's not enough room to get it out, but that's okay. If you get it loose, it'll go back far enough that you can get the rail out, which I've already done. I've got the rail over here in the injectors, and I went ahead and replaced all the, there's the rail, and then I replaced all the, what are they called? The O-ring right there, that blue part. I replaced all these green ones, which had mysteriously flattened out in the car, or in the rail. They had just kind of turned rectangular. And I don't know what that's all about, but maybe they were just cheap. But these are new ones, and they fit a lot better and tighter, of course. So now I've just got to decide. I can put those back in there, and then I think I can hook up the pressure and the return line with the whole rail down below the car and pressurize it. And then I think all I've got to do is just a little power and ground here, and I could pulse each injector and just watch it and see if it's flowing or not. But that wouldn't tell me if it's flowing the way it should. It would just tell me if it's flowing some. So it might not be good enough test. I'm not really sure. Might reach out to my buddy Scott and see if he is willing to flow these real quick for me in the next day or two for a reasonable price, and if so, I'll just have him do it. That's where I'm at right now. So I think next update on this will be at the point where I have decided what I'm going to do on that. Okay guys, so let me catch you up on what has happened. I have taken the injectors out. I took them to my friend Scott, and he put them on his flow bench and tested them for me, and they were just fine. No problems with the injectors whatsoever. I will put a clip in right here showing what they look like on the flow bench, if I can remember to. So I put them back in the car now, and next up I'm gonna do a compression with the old compression gauge here and just verify that there's not any just anomalies or weirdness going on. And I highly doubt there's going to be any problems with compression. But we're gonna just do our due diligence here and run all the tests that we can run. So next up is compression test on all four, and then we're going to try to do a cylinder leak down test too, to test and see if we have a valve problem, which we shouldn't have. Again, the machine shop went through the head and checked for leaks and gave it a clean bill of health, so it should be fine, but obviously something isn't fine. So compression test and leak down test is next up on the list. And then if those check out, I really don't know what to do next after that. I guess I can take off the timing covers and I can get around to top dead center again. I can just make sure we're on our marks and I can just visually look at stuff. At least I think I can get the covers off. I should be able to get the top one off. The bottom one is hidden behind the harmonic balancer, so I'd have to pull the harmonic balancer just to get the bottom cover off, just to see the mark on the crank. But I probably don't have to do that. So anyway, compression, leak down, and visual test here. And hopefully somewhere in the mix of all that, we will come across something. Yeah, otherwise I'm stumped. The car fires up easy, but runs really, really rough. So it's like it's missing a whole cylinder. It could be, we haven't talked about this, it could be just a randomly dead coil pack. You know, I highly doubt that because these have been working great forever, and all I did was take them out and set them in a box. They should be fine. All right, guys, good news. It has been a few days since that last clip, and I've made big progress, and I made a breakthrough on the MR2. The fact is, this car is now running and driving. I didn't film a whole bunch of that because it was too stressful, and I was trying to get a lot of work done really fast. So I want to talk to you about what happened and what I went through, and basically what I determined and figured out on this thing. So this is how the engine bay sits now. You can see it's all back together, and I've even got the crossbar in there, which I haven't had it in years. So it's actually pretty cool to see this engine bay in a completed state like this for the first time. But so the last thing I did and talked about in that last clip was the compression test, which I did do, and I wish I would have filmed some more of that because I had a weird thing happen. Compression was good in cylinders 1, 2, and 3. And compression was 0 in cylinder 4. And I was like, oh my gosh. Obviously, we've got a massive problem with cylinder 4. I must have a bent valve or a dropped valve or some huge problem because 1, 2, and 3 were great, 4 was bad. So I was like, oh my gosh, we've got a massive internal problem. I have to pull this engine again. So I thought, what should I do? Well, I put compression gauge back in cylinder 3, tested it again, and it was 0. I was like, what the heck? Well, I know it wasn't bad because it was good a second ago. So I put it in cylinder 2 and cylinder 1. They were all 0. I was like, what is going on? Well, it turns out randomly during the middle of my test, this right here on my compression gauge failed on me. This is the Schrader valve inside a compression gauge, and it mounts down in the very end of your compression gauge right inside there. And that's the valve that was in there, and that sucker failed on me. And I've never had that happen before, but this thing is supposed to have spring pressure on it right here on that little pintle thing in the middle. That's supposed to be sprung out, and you can push on it and it has a spring in it. Well, the spring seems to have just completely disappeared. There's no tension at all on that thing. So when that failed, it wouldn't allow any pressure to build and stay. So that's just a one-way check valve. You guys know what a Schrader valve is. Every tire in the world has one of those in it. So I took that out and replaced it with a spare one I had, and put it back and retested cylinder 4, and it was fine. So everything's fine, no problem. But I had a massive heart attack thinking I had a down cylinder. So that spun me around and around for a couple of hours. So never fun when your tools fail, especially when they're diagnostic tools. But thankfully it was a pretty easy fix, and all the cylinders were good. So I was like, well, shoot. Injectors are good and compression's good. I could do a leak down test, but I guarantee it's probably not going to show anything. If compression's good, you would think that leak down probably wouldn't be good. Or even if compression was good, but leak down was bad, it probably wouldn't run rough like it was running. So nothing was making sense. So anyway, I crawled underneath the car to do something. I forget what I was even doing. I might have just been looking around for problems, but I found one. So let me get underneath the car here, and I'll show you what the issue was and the whole problem. Okay guys, so I'm underneath the car looking up at the bottom side of the intake manifold, and you see those brown wires that are going to that 10mm nut right there on the bottom, and then there's another one up there behind that black harness. There's two of them dudes. Well, the whole entire problem was this upper one up here, I never even connected it. I don't know how it happened. I guess I just didn't see it up there, but I connected that lower one over there, but this one up here was just dangling there, and I completely didn't even see it. So when I was under here looking around for problems, I looked up there and saw that dangling, and I instantly knew that that was going to be my whole problem. So that thing is a major ground for your engine harness. So I would imagine at least a couple of my coil packs weren't firing because they weren't grounded out. So yeah guys, that was the whole freaking deal right there on why this thing was not running correctly and was running so rough, because I had made one little bitty wiring mistake, and that one little bitty wiring mistake led me down the path of having to pay somebody to do injector cleaning and me to do compression test and me to rack my head on problems and so forth, and just generally stress myself out for days and days trying to fix this. So anyway, lesson learned, I guess. Be sure to go over your wiring harness a couple of times before you go to other methods first, because wiring harnesses not being connected right is a super common problem, and I should have thought about that. But anyway, yeah, so where we're at now on the car is I've put about 50 miles on it, break-in miles on the first oil change, and everything went great. The tune needs touched up, but everything on the car is fine. It runs really, really good. I put 0 boost to it during that time. Oh, yeah, maybe 2 or 3 pounds a couple of times, but that's it. And then I changed the oil after 50 miles, and I looked at the oil, and it was really good. I don't think there's any problems with the engine that I can tell so far. So I changed the oil in the filter, and now it's on fresh Valvoline VR1 and a Toyota filter. So that's going to be for the next 1,500 or so miles, and then I'll change it again, and with more VR1. And VR1's the permanent oil that I put in this car all the time because it's really high zinc content, and that's supposed to be really good for turbos. And that's the oil that ATS Racing recommends for this turbocharger specifically. So Valvoline VR1 is what I run on that. It's also what I run on the 240 back here. Pretty much I just run that on all the performance cars. So super, super happy to have the car running. Super, super happy to have it running good. Now, what else did I do? So I put in a lower wastegate spring pressure in one of the previous videos. So we should be running much less boost than what blew it up the first time. So I have no idea how much boost it's actually going to be running though. So probably on my next drive out, I'm going to start giving it some boost and start sort of warming it up to the idea of having some boost to it. What else? I will say the turbo sounds a little different than it used to sound. I don't know what's going on there. I did put my hands down there on the impeller wheel. It feels perfect. I don't feel any problems with the turbo at all. It was making 2 or 3 pounds of boost, so I don't think there is any problem with the turbo. I just noticed that it's making more of a turbo sound than it used to make. More of that whine that turbos sometimes make. So we'll keep an eye on that. But yeah, that's pretty much going to be it for this video, guys. Probably in the next video, I'm going to go out and drive it. I've been really trying to get good audio of this car because the car sounds freaking amazing. It's got the best turbo sounds of any car I've ever been in. And I want so bad to capture that and make video content out of it for everybody to enjoy. I just want to share that cool sound with everybody. But capturing that sound is actually not real easy for me. I'm filming on my phone here like I always do. And so I bought a lavalier mic that plugs into the phone, and then you're supposed to be able to put like a filter around it and then put that in the engine bay. And we tested it on my buddy's Subaru, and it sounded terrible. It was just all wind noise, so that did not work. So anyway, In the next video, I'll probably go out and take it for a rip and hopefully be able to get you some sort of sound quality out of it. But anyway, guys, let me know if you have any questions down below. The MR2 is back. It is ripping, and it is ready to be tuned and ready to be driven. So mission accomplished on that. It's been a success, and it's going to be so good to have that car back on the road. And yep, if you guys have any questions, let me know. If you want to subscribe to the channel, I appreciate that. And I will catch you guys on the next one.